Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Isaac from Guns for Everyone, and I've got a beginner video for you. Maybe not a beginner video for some of you fuckers. This is, if you've been shooting a long time, you still don't know some of this. So, let's talk about some range safety etiquette, some things that you should understand and know when you're at the range. Some of these things might be obvious to you, some of them may not be obvious to you. But these are things that I've seen a lot happen at the range, and they're very easy to prevent mistakes. And it's something that you guys should put forth effort on. Don't just head to the range and let things happen. You're going to some place. You're going to some place where people are going to be handling firearms. You're going to be handling firearms, loaded firearms, with the intent to shoot these firearms. If something goes wrong, it could be catastrophic. So it's important that you take the time and effort to be as safe as you can be given the activities that you're doing. So the first rule, not rule, the first range safety etiquette is listen to the RSO. Okay. What do I mean listen to the RSO? Most ranges you go to, a range safety officer is going to brief you on the safety rules for the range. But not just the safety rules, there's also going to be some other instructions for you at the range. One of the ranges I go to all the time has 10 rules posted on the wall, but the RSO tends to always give a couple extra things that are important. Maybe important for that day, maybe important for the how many people are on the range, what range you're going to be on, etc. These people do this all the time. Something you do all the time, you are going to become more efficient at that. And what does that mean is the range safety officer does not want to waste your time, and really more importantly, they don't want to waste their own time. They're not going to tell you a bunch of shit you don't need to know. The shit they're telling you are things you do need to know. So pay attention and listen to the RSO. You do not want to make a mistake because you weren't paying attention. You don't want to be the asshole who gets yelled at because you weren't paying attention. The things that they are telling you are important. A lot of people waste your time. Sometimes I do. This is not one of those times. Pay attention to the RSO. Listen carefully, and if you have questions, ask your questions. They would rather you ask the questions before guns are in your hand than for you to wait until you have a firearm in your hand to ask a question like, oh, can I pick up my shit off the floor? All right, so listen to the RSO, pay attention, ask your questions, make sure you understand them to the best of your ability. On the topic of listening, it is highly recommended. Oops, that's not right. That you. That's not right either. Jesus. All right, number two is that you invest in electronic ear pro. Ear protection. Electronic ear protection. So I understand for some people when you first get into this, there's a lot of money being thrown around and you're like, I don't want to spend any more money than I absolutely have to. So you might go and buy some $10, $5 earmuffs. Okay. If you're limited by budget and you can't buy anything better than that, I understand. But if you're trying to decide between buying another gun and buying proper safety equipment, and you buy another gun instead of proper safety equipment, then you're fucking stupid. Uh, Electronic ear protection is proper safety equipment, and the reason I say that is because electronic ear protection allows you to hear everything that's going on except for the gunshots. And if the RSO needs to call cold range, if you have a question and you need to hear the answer, you need to have electronic ear protection on the range. It is simply too difficult to consistently hear what's going on if you don't have electronic hearing protection. Now, you can get cheap electronic hearing for protection for somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 bucks. And that's a small price to pay for being able to hear what's going on. I personally have never spent more than $50 on electronic ear pro. Some people want to, get the super high end, like the Peltors or whatever. Fuck all that noise. I don't need anything that expensive, but being able to hear what's going on is important. In addition to that, it is a good idea in an indoor range to put in the foamy ear pro underneath your electronic hearing protection. You say, hey, Isaac, won't I not be able to hear anything now that I've got an earplug under the electronic hearing protection? This stuff boosts the normal sound. So if you crank up the volume on your EarPro, you'll hear everything going on in the range. You'll hear the guy at the end of the range shooting a 22. You'll hear his brass hitting the ground. You put in those foamies, you're getting amplified sound into your ear. So you will be able to hear everything just fine that you need to, even with this in. But this will definitely help when somebody decides to bring their AR 308 pistol onto the range and shoot it next to you. You will thank me if you put some of these in under your electronic EarPro. But if you put on the cheap ones, if you put on the EarPro, the $5 EarPro, and then you add these, now you really won't be able to hear shit. So understand that you are not only protecting your ears with the electronic EarPro, but you're also protecting everybody else around you, and you're enabling yourself to use some of those. All right. Number 3. Keep your shit organized. If you've ever worked in a construction setting, if you've ever worked in like an airport, if you've ever worked anywhere like a factory or a warehouse or a factory or something like that, you will find out real quickly that you should keep your shit organized. You should keep hazards out of the way, tripping hazards, hazards where people don't know what's going on. It's really important you keep your shit organized. If you start spreading your shit out, the risk starts to go up. So keep your shit organized. If you've got multiple firearms and you're shooting multiple firearms, shoot one fucking gun at a time and case up the other guns and get them out of the way. Do not leave your jacket on the floor for somebody else to trip over. Do not leave all kinds of shit everywhere. When brass starts to get building up where you're shooting, clean that shit up. It is really important. The more hazards there are, the more likely that there will be an accident on the range. And it doesn't even have to be a gun accident. Nobody has to get shot for people to get hurt on the range. So keep your shit organized on the range. All right, let's see. I've got some other things on my list. Okay. I'm going to have to shorten this because it's too long to write. But don't do anything you are not sure of. You are not sure of. Now, if you're learning how to hit a quarter-sized target at 25 yards and you're not sure you're actually going to hit it or not, that's not what I mean. I mean, don't do things on the range that you aren't sure are allowed to be done on the range. One of the things that people constantly do is drop something and then not know if they're allowed to pick it up. Or something else that you might encounter, I don't know if I'm allowed to draw from a holster. Don't do shit that you're not sure you're allowed to do. Ask the RSO. The moment things start to happen that are outside of the rules of what the RSO allows, things are going to get stressful very quickly. And usually, if they didn't tell you could do it, that means you can't do it. And that means, and the reason you can't do it is because it's dangerous. It's unnecessarily risky. So don't do anything that you're not sure of. Ask the RSO if you're not sure. If you dropped your $5,000 handgun 2 feet down range, do not pick it up. Ask the RSO if you can pick up your very expensive shit. So make sure it's okay before you do it. All right. The next one, I need to pause the video so that we can change the camera angle. All right, so this is a gun handling lesson. I'm not going to put it on the board until we change the camera angle back. But when you're handling your firearm at the range, you show up, you put your gun down on the bench, and you unzip it, zip, 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 and you open it up. Oh, it's pointed right at me. What should I do? I'm going to use this as an example of what you should not do. You should not grab your gun and pick it up and turn it around. You are pointing the gun unnecessarily in an unsafe direction. So what are we going to do? Turn the case around. Magic. All right, gun is ready to be picked up and still be pointed where it's allowed. First thing you should probably do, because you're probably not ready to shoot right when you come out, is load and unload and lock the gun open to make sure that it is safe to handle. Check down to make sure that there's nothing in the magazine well, double check the chamber, and set aside, keep your stuff organized, put the gun down. Now you're ready to start loading some mags. When you pick up the gun, where is it supposed to be pointed? Downrange, at your target. So any rotating of the gun can be done in a way that keeps the gun pointed where it's supposed to. When I reload the gun, I should not, when I reload the gun, should not be pointing the gun up here where I'm not supposed to be pointing the gun. I should keep the gun pointed downrange when I load the gun. So the way that would look is I've got the gun pointed where it's supposed to. I load the gun. I get the gun ready to shoot. When I'm done, gun stays pointed in the same direction. Gun gets locked open. Sorry, new gun to me. All right, there we go. Gun gets locked open. Gun gets placed down, still pointing it where it needs to be. When I go to put the gun away, I pull the case back up. I'm ready to put the gun away. Look at, oh, if I put the gun away with the case pointed this direction, it's going to point the gun at myself. So I'm going to turn the case around, and then I can go ahead and safely put my gun back in the case. Okay, so that means number 5 is be intentional about where you're pointing the gun. Okay, so that means every time you're handling the gun, pay attention to where it's pointed. We talk about generally safe direction in the context of handling firearms and what is a general safe direction and what is not. And it's highly dependent on the context and what you're able to do in that context. At the gun range, you are able to keep the gun pointed downrange when you're handling it. There is really no excuse not to do that. No matter what you're doing with the gun, you should be able to point it at the target or downrange. Not up at the ceiling, not at the people next to you, not at yourself, but downrange. If you're able to do it, then do it. Keep that gun pointed where it's supposed to be intentional. And then another thing that I demonstrated there for you is lock the gun open. So the reason why we want to keep the gun locked open when we're not using it is because the RSO's got a very complex job to do, including monitoring the state of each firearm that is accessible. If I've got a gun in a case back by the benches and it's closed up and locked up, RSO doesn't really care about that gun. But if you were to take that gun out of the case and set it on top of the case, now the RSO cares. And the reason is because we're that many steps closer to being able to fire the gun. So the RSO's got to manage what's going on with these firearms. If he walks past your gun on the range and it's unattended or not being touched or whatever, he's going to want to see that that gun is more steps away from being able to fire. So lock your guns open. Keep those guns easily identifiable as an unloaded firearm. Oh, you can't see that. Let me tilt this down. Easily identifiable, geez, I'm having a hard time today, as an unloaded firearm. Okay? Now, this last one's kind of a joke, but it's really not a joke. And that is fresh breath. Okay, fresh breath. Like, how's fresh breath a safety issue? If your breath stinks, the RSO may avoid you. And sometimes, it's best not to have people bothering you all the time. But when we're talking about safety issues and things like that, I don't want anybody trying to avoid me because they can't stand my breath. Fresh breath allows you to communicate with the people around you without barriers. Also, it sucks from both from the point of view of the person who's got to talk to you to keep constantly being exposed to your nasty breath. So this is not a joke. I actually keep gum in my range bag, and before I take students to the range, I always brush my teeth before I take them to the range, because I know I'm going to be talking to them close up for like up to an hour, and I don't want them to be sitting here thinking, oh my god, his breath stinks, when they should be listening to the shit that I'm saying, not the shit smell in my mouth. So keep your fresh breath, keep yourself open, I guess, to people coming up to you and giving you important information. This is not a complete list. Depending on the range you go to, depending on the unique circumstances, there may be more. These are the ones that just came up off the top of my head today. I was watching a video of somebody going to the range, and I just thought to myself, these are some things that are very important that most people overlook when it comes to the range. So thanks for watching. If you have something else, I want you to add it to the comments. As I usually say, I don't always say, but usually say, I don't really give a shit about your subscription. I don't give a shit about your like or your dislike. I do give a shit about conversations. And the comments is an easy opportunity for us to have a conversation about things that I said or didn't say. So please leave a comment if you have a question, if you have an idea, if you think I'm full of shit, if you want to argue. Put it all in the comments. Let's talk about it. Gunsforeveryone.com, free handgun training, free concealed carry classes across Colorado. And thanks for watching.